Right. We now move on to the next segment of our program. And of course, our next speaker needs little to no introduction. As the head of agro-processing and agriculture at the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, Kgampi Bapela receives thousands of emails and calls from farmers every day who are seeking his help. Please welcome Kgampi Bapela.
Good morning, and I would say I would have greeted the minister. She just left, but I must just echo what the previous speakers have said. Minister Didisa is passionate about the sector, and I think she really demonstrated for her being here. She always avails herself, and as the IDC, we also reached out to her, realizing that it's difficult in this sector, and especially for young people. She mentioned the issue of collateral, not only collateral, even those farmers or businesses that are already operating, they have business going, but they need to expand. It's always difficult to, sometimes you find that their balance sheet cannot be able to take additional funding. We reached out to them, we knocked kickback several times. Eventually, we managed to convince them that it was the right thing to do, and we managed to secure a relationship where R1 billion was secured for to be deployed over a period of 5 years. How this works is that 200 million it's transferred to us. Then we blend that with the IDC funding, and throughout the presentation, I'll demonstrate how that has worked and how far we are to date. So the idea is to help the expand the farmers, or the businesses of the farmers. The key criteria is that the ownership of these enterprises has to be 60% black, but we have prioritized subsectors or commodities rather. We don't seek to compete with our other sister companies. We have a mandate as the IDC. So is the land bank. I'm told there will be officials from the land bank who will be here. In the first year of the scheme being launched, we've been able to fund around 9 farmers. And I'm talking only about the scheme itself, not our total funding, where we funded for over 500 million. Year to date, or in quarter one, we approved 50 about just over 50 million, and I'm talking of the fund, not necessarily of the IDC funding. This works as an off-balance sheet funding, and it is in the form of a grant. But the grant cannot go alone. It goes in as a blended finance to try and extend it and reach as to as many people as possible. Next slide, please. So in order for us to be able to commercialize, or to sort of have an impact in the sector, we said we wanted to help upscale and commercialize. But for us to know that, we had to ask ourselves question: what does it mean to be commercial? You'll see, as a black farmer, mostly when they're talking in the sector, when they're talking of emerging, it's almost like it's synonymous to being black. We then had to engage the sector and say different commodity groupings to run the numbers and say what is commercial. And that's how we came with the criteria to say if you're playing in a particular space, this is the minimum viable unit that you need. We needed to work with the sector for us to be able to establish that. And to this end, next slide, please. I just want to give example of few commodities that we supporting. Previous one. Okay. I'll just continue speak to that. For example, if you were to be in blueberries, you will require a minimum of 15 hectares. And for you to be able to then have your own pack house, you will need at least 80 hectares. For avos, it will be 30. For oranges, it will be 50. For soft citrus, you will need 10 hectares. So we looked at this, and as we discussing with different commodity groupings, and that's how we came up with this. The same goes for poultry. If you were to be doing broilers, there's the industry acceptable viable unit to be considered commercial. You have to be producing in broiler space a minimum of 200,000 birds per cycle. So that's how we, as the IDC, we decided we're going to be supporting. We try and not have the weight emerging in our vocab. We try to say we want to commercialize. We want to help scale up and develop commercial farmers. Also with still in the poultry industry with layers, we require for us to support you, you have to at least have 50,000 layers. With piggeries, you need a sow unit of at least a minimum of 300. For the red meat sector, you need at least you have to be vertically integrated, meaning that you need to have a feedlot, have an abattoir, or if you choose to contract slaughter, have at least a processing facility where for primal cuts and all that. But now the question could be, why only these particular subsectors? This talks only to the IDC mandate, but also the instruments that we have in that we know we'll be able to deploy. However, we continue to negotiate with the department to explore and as to the other ways in which we can do this, but also through partnerships as well. For example, in the grain industry, we don't normally support, but we are in discussions with the likes of Grain SA to see if we cannot use them as a conduit so that we can reach as many farmers as we can. But we are also exploring the ESD space. There is a lot of funds that are sitting with large FMCG producers as well as retailers, where farmers you can have aggregators that can then be able to access these markets, and also some of these entities also, they do have the funds to can be able to match us in order to expand. We're having a relationship with one retailer already where they even built their own pack house. Then they contracted farmers in the area. They give them the program of what to plant and bringing all those into the pack houses, sort and then distribute. I always give example that if you are in Limpopo, say living in Polokwane, buying fresh produce in a supermarket, the chances are you buying a product that came not far from where you live, but it traveled all the way to Joburg to be repacked, sent back, and you pay a little bit more of a product that is not so fresh. While we could take advantage of this opportunity where we aggregate, we do everything in the area, and it get distributed from there. That's what we're looking to be doing in future, in partnership with these the other partners. But maybe if you can go to slide 9, that talks about the scheme performance. I know it's easy to talk about these things, but people say, but what have you done to date? Okay. We only signed this agreement with the department last year in March, and we only started implementing in June last year. And last year alone, we've been able to do, I'm talking about the financial year, but you can even look at it as a calendar year. We've been able to approve 9 transactions that created just over 200 jobs. The scheme utilization was around 140,000, where IDC funding was 139 million, IDC funding 245, and year to date we approved additional 5 transactions, taking it to 14, adding another 100 million of the scheme, and with IDC funding of just over 300. By next week we would have, and that we've reached 300 million now. By the end of next week we would have reached 400 million of the scheme. A letter has already been sent out to the ministry to say, can we get another tranche? And we're projecting that by the end of the financial year, which is March next year, we would have already spent another 400 million. We're supposed to be spending 200 million per year. We're running ahead of the projected period, but at least the department has been graceful enough, and they're happy with the rate at which we're moving. So I hope they will be willing to continually pumping the funds, because we can see the impact. If you look at it, by the end of what we're projecting, by the end of December, if the money comes through, we would have committed 500 million of the department, but that would have unlocked more than 1.6 billion of IDC money. So the total funding would have been 2 billion. And here I'm talking only of the scheme, not of our other funding. We still fund agriculture. We still fund even those who are not qualifying to participate in this blended funding. But just reporting on the scheme itself. That's where we are. And I'm hoping that young Mzansi young farmers, hopefully we can strike a partnership that maybe from next year, this could be called Dalrat IDC Mzansi Young Farmers Indaba, because we really excited to be part of this. And it's been difficult, especially in the agri space, to find young entrepreneurs or agripreneurs that we could support. And I hopefully out of this, those who qualify will definitely maybe come through, and we will be able to count among those that we supported as beneficiary of the scheme. Just also on the states, the smallest transaction that we supported to date was around 5 million. The largest that we've supported was 500 million. So it's not everyone who qualifies can benefit. It's not, we're not limiting it to only large or only smaller transactions. And the most important, and I hope Minister, it would have been nice if Minister was still here, among the beneficiary also, we having some of the restituted land where there is, last week we've just approved a transaction where a community project, they were expanding from 15 hectares of macadamia, adding additional 100 hectares, partnering with probably one of the largest macadamia producers in the country. You can go to, I'm done. There is my contact details are there. The number, all the numbers and all that, you can take it down, but up until 6 o'clock, I'll take calls. We're not scared to, because we really committed. Hence, I put even my cell phone number there, but it will I'll only avail myself until 6 o'clock. I still have a family as well. Thanks very much for allowing us to be here. And I'm looking forward to your proposals and more calls, but hopefully on viable propositions that we can be able to support. Thank you.
Patricia Nokuthula Mpele. Ngizalelwe la emalangeni esigodini saso Swanini. Induna uEnoch Gumede.
Muzonywa ngubo esigodini sase emalangeni uSwanini Ward 7 umlimi ulima kokuncane.
My name is Sipho. I run my father's farm. It's a family business. Our farm is called Idwala Farm. That day of looting, it hit us badly because we didn't expect something like that would happen.
Ngelanga kwakutelekiwe abantu bashisa umobo wami. Washa umobo inhliziyo yami yabuhlungu ngalahlekelwa.
Ngesikhathi beshisa umoba wami kwakumhla ka11 12 kanje waseshona umntanami umhla ka13 ebusuku. Ngaba nenhliziyo ebuhlungu lapho ngadideka.
With the funding from IDC, it really helped us. If it wasn't for IDC, we would be out of business right now. This funding has really helped us with the legacy of the family.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu IDC ngokusikhasa kwabo.
Ngiyayibonga ingadini IDC.